You're listening to the Chorus One podcast, a show that covers decentralized networks and their impact on the evolution of automated and borderless economies. On this podcast, we invite pioneers and builders to discuss the decentralized protocols and projects they are working on.
Hello and welcome to the Chorus One podcast. Today I'm joined by the P2P validator team who is working on Neutron, a new Cosmos-based smart contract chain. Welcome guys, welcome to the show.
Hey.
Hey there.
Happy to be there.
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, today, so we have two guests, or potentially three. We have someone that might join us later. We'll see if this is going to happen. We have Vasiliy and Spaydh. Maybe it would make sense for both of you to introduce yourselves. So maybe, Vasiliy, you can start.
I'm CTO of P2P and co-founder of Lido. I used to be an engineer in informational security for a long time, then engineering manager. Working with blockchain since 2017 or so, had a couple of failed startups, then became CTO of P2P basically. I'm also, I'm not a Cosmos OG, but I'm pretty long in this in this particular ecosystem. One of the failed startup was on Cosmos. So pretty happy to make some contributions to Cosmos Hub here. So
awesome, very cool. Yeah, Spaydh, how about you?
I started picking an interest in crypto around the same time, around 2017, and kind of followed it from a distance for a while. I was working as a journalist and then as a teacher, so kind of trying to understand complex stuff was something I've always been very keen on, and trying to explain them to other people was also something that I worked with quite a lot. And so in the past 2 years, I've been focusing more and more on crypto, how it works behind the scenes, what kind of protocols and how exist and how they interoperate together. And so I started working at P2P at the beginning of this year, and I think it's been amazing to get to use those skills that I developed in very different contexts to kind of share about the tech that we're building and involve people in them, how we can use them further how basically we can get people involved with our products in making them better, and how we can make sure that everybody understands what they're using, basically.
Awesome. Yeah. Super cool. Yeah. And I guess Vasiliy also mentioned it, right? P2P, definitely Cosmos OGs, and we're all super excited for this project. So I guess we can start by talking about Neutron itself. So maybe, in a few sentences, what is Neutron?
Well, so Neutron is we intend Neutron to be the best platform for smart contract developers to launch in Cosmos. What's great about Cosmos is that it allows for a lot of possibility in the creation of your apps and zones, but not every team, not every project needs to use this full range of possibilities that also kind of induce a lot of overhead in development. So our idea with Neutron is to kind of provide the best platform that can serve a very wide range of use cases and applications, whilst maximizing interoperability with the rest of the ecosystem and minimizing the overhead for the developers, kind of. We do this by providing security, using the hub, using the validator set and the staked atom on the hub via Interchain security, and providing comprehensive support for IBC techs, technologies such as Interchain accounts, Interchain queries, IBC obviously. And that kind of allows smart contracts on Neutron to have a wide range of complex interactions with other zones, meaning you can just deploy on Neutron once. It's fairly straightforward as compared to just making a whole chain for your protocol. And then you can still interact very freely with the rest of the ecosystem, basically.
Yeah, thanks for that overview. I think right? That's a very promising kind of feature set. Of course, the main interesting thing here is that Neutron is one of the first networks that's going to use like interchain security, as you mentioned. So basically, being secured by the Atom and the Cosmos validator set. Can you expand like why you decided to go that route?
Yep.
Yeah,
Vasiliy,
I can chime in here. Yeah, so the gist of it, the Neutron idea was basically there is for many applications there is a need to have a neutral, conservatively governed place to deploy that does not need to have full autonomy, full sovereignty. Many applications wants to be sovereign, like they want to have their own governance that is fully in control of everything that happens, and that Cosmos thesis, and it's right. Many applications will want that, but not all of them. Like there are like a very comprehensive trend of making governance minimized applications that by design can't do some things to the users basically, and not in control into what happens of everything that happens. Maybe in control of nothing, like some completely trustless applications. For example, there is an iconic example of Uniswap that has governance, but that governance is very minimized. Like you can't, like the governance of Uniswap can't change the basic idea of how exchange happens. But it can govern basically the treasury and a few things about the fees on Uniswap. Same for Curve, for MakerDAO, for many applications that are popular in Ethereum land and like generally popular DeFi applications. They have a very limited set of governability. Like not everything can be changed by the governance here, and that makes them better for users because users know Maker can't stop, can't blacklist the addresses. So financial like censorship is not possible on Maker. It has failure modes, but this is not one of the failure modes here. People know that they can trade on Uniswap without thinking about how Uniswap governance will interpret the trade. For example, one day like do that. Hey guys, do you want like please can you please stop trading thing? Uh, so. What I think is there is a place for apps like this, and in like in grand scheme of things, but there is currently like there are places for apps like this on in Cosmos ecosystem like Juno and Evmos something, but we can make a better place for this, like more neutral. Cosmos Hub is an interchain secured zone that deployed on Cosmos Hub is kind of like sufficiently. It's basically have much less of its own governance, which is good in this case. It has much less need to handle the validator set, which is also great here. It is economically secured by Cosmos Hub, which is also immense thing to have. Actually, it's one of the most economically secure chain proof of stake chains in like everywhere. It's a pretty big one. So these are the thing that makes Cosmos Hub a good place to run a network like this under this umbrella. So there is also like one category is governance minimized chains, not the chain governance minimized application that don't want to have a lot of governance. And the other category that could be very important here and is also other part of the equation and like of Neutron design is that there are a lot of wallet gardens in Cosmos, like not wallet, they connected through IBC, but like they separate they like not very composable, but not very composable. The up chains are like they are not wallet guard, but like that they are oasis and deserts. They are like somewhat isolated and connected with stray caravans that like go here and there once in a while. And this paradigm, we know it. It's actually like Internet of APIs works in very like similar ways. Like there are APIs from, for example, from like for emails, for like CRMs, for knowledge bases, and they are like somewhat connectable, but not really connected. And there is a need for glue layer, the scripting layer, the like business bus, things that glues it together when you want to use 3 or 4 up chains in your like in what you do in your strategy. You need a layer to connect them all, to script them all. For example, when you want, like for example, take a loan on Yumi and then trade on Osmosis in some way that is not entirely off chain and reliant on like on script that signs the messages, you'll need like something in between. And what place is better to be in between than something on Cosmos Hub? So that's in some way it's very logical. In other ways, it's a vision of Cosmos Hub. Basically, that's what was in white paper. It wasn't clear why Cosmos Hub would be a hub, basically, but with Neutron, I think it's part of the answer.
Awesome, thanks. That covers a lot of questions I think that I already had, but we can dive deeper into it also. I think like one core thing, especially in the second part, like what you're saying, kind of these composability, bringing it back. I guess a core feature for this are interchain accounts. And I think we also have the third guest joining here. So Alex has made it, got his microphone working, or like actually the sound more than anything. So yeah, welcome Alex, and maybe you can introduce yourself first, and then kind of answer a little bit what are interchain accounts and what do they enable for Neutron, or like for the Cosmos ecosystem at large.
Hello guys, sorry for the delay, sorry for my technical problem. I'm product lead in P2P, and now I'm a product in Neutron team. I think we have a lot of question about Neutron, and I think very big things. What I want to say, Neutron, it's not only about liquid staking. Liquid staking from LiDAR and Neutron, I think it is two separate products. It is my first things. And you asked me about interchain security, yeah?
Yeah, interchain security. Also, I guess we kind of covered this a little bit. I guess maybe you missed it. Like Vasiliy touched upon it. I think interchain accounts, right? Like Vasiliy was talking a little bit about the composability between different applications. And it seems to me that interchain accounts are like a core feature of that. Can you maybe describe a little bit what they do and how Neutron might use that?
Yeah, I think I agree with you, but I think it's not only a key feature, but I think I'm not the right person to describe it. Vasiliy, can you help me with it?
Yeah, sure. Interchain accounts are like very important for Neutron because they are like, these lab walls with gloves when there is like, for example, a scientist on one side, on the other side that there is some toxic or like bacterial threat, and they're using these gloves in the wall to manipulate stuff on the other side. So that's interchain accounts for between chains. Like they are separated by this wall of like not connectivity, and you like become an account on the other chain and put your hands in this glove of the account on the other chain and manipulate stuff in the other room without being in this other room, like only an account that has limited privileges and like can do some very limited stuff, what one account can do, a usual account, or even more limited than that. And that's one part of it, right? So you can do the smart contracts on Neutron can do stuff on other chains through interchain account stuff. One thing with interchain accounts is that they are non-responsive. Like they are basically to go to another metaphor, they're basically a gun. You fire out, and then something happened on the other side, but you don't know what. You don't have any response from the side that is directly in smart contract layer. So that's why interchain queries are important. These are the ways to find out what happens on the other side, where you can ask a question and get an answer on Neutron, basically.
Okay, that's super interesting. So these two features together make this composability basically work. Now, I guess like these features are accessible to everyone, or like every chain that kind of wants to adopt them. Now, does that also mean, you can have like someone will have an interchain account on Neutron too, right? Like, but I guess why do you think it will like end up what you're saying, that Neutron is the perfect hub for these activities to like compose the things together? I think a lot of the other chains basically have a similar plan to become this. Maybe can you expand again why you think like Neutron is the best suited for that, or how do you see that play out? Will there be like, interchain accounts operated by different zones? And or is there like one zone, chain that like dominates that, or how do you think about that?
So we'll see how it plays out. It's pretty new thing. What I'm thinking here is like how I think it's going to happen, but with not like full certainty. The like interchain landscape has not stopped to surprise me in some ways usually. So one thing here is that interchain accounts are fairly like universal. They'll be working more or less the same way everywhere. That's the beauty of them. Interchain queries are much more complicated. Interchain accounts are fairly universal. You can implement it one time and then use like in every kind of way. Queries are much more complicated. You need to implement every query and test it, and it requires maintenance in some way. And by every query, I mean like you need to implement balance query. You need to implement token balance query separately. For some tokens, you need to implement like a specific, like a very different kind of token balance query. For like delegations, you need a query for everything, basically for full supply, for every model that like you might want, every data piece of data you might want to query, you need to implement one. And they are brittle. They will break up every time the zone upgrades and touches the like database layout of what you do, or maybe the domain interpretation of what you do, and the logic behind some of the like regular queries. So these are maintenance heavy, brittle, and custom. So it's very hard to develop and support a full suite of interchain queries that are needed for developers. The chain that has specialty in them will likely be like the most feature rich in that regard, and like by a long account, because it's very hard technological mode basically between adopting ICA and adopting and maintaining ICQ. It's like very different things in how hard it is implemented. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is what I've talked about. Like Neutron is supposed to be under Cosmos Hub umbrella with all its security and fairly stable governance. So that's something good. The third reason here is interchain accounts and queries. Like every interchain connection is basically pretty expensive, and that leads to what had been already understood by folks on who designed Cosmos, that like there will be natural hubs because they are expensive but reusable. People can share pain for them. Like interchain query for like delegates can be shared between multiple stake and liquid staking solutions, for example. Queries about balance can be shared between multiple, like for example, pool balances on Osmosis or something, can be shared between multiple applications that use them. So these are also important reasons why there, well, like one chain that specializes in this sort of thing can be a lead in this sort of things, and like can provide better experience for developers and users than other chains. Technically, they can adopt everything, but it's hard, and there are some measure of economies of scale here.
Awesome. Yeah, that's
I want
super.
to.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go.
Yeah, I think Interchain account is very important, but I think the power of the Neutron is combination. Cosmos Hub security, Cosmos WASM, Interchain account, Interchain query, and permissionless. It is unique combination. It's a new platform for Cosmos.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. I think we can also like segue a bit and maybe like return to this as super interesting, like kind of thinking about, the future of the kind of architecture or topology of the Cosmos ecosystem, of course. But maybe we can talk a little bit about this, like how Neutron came about. So I guess we initially had this proposal to put Cosmos directly on the hub. So proposal 69, for people that weren't aware, was about kind of getting some limited governance gated Cosmos ability on the hub, which currently doesn't have that. And that was rejected. And now there came this proposal 72, which basically also includes some portion of funding for Neutron. Can you describe a little bit how how this proposal works, how you worked on it, on how the funding works for the Neutron, and kind of how that whole process went down and where we are currently, maybe?
And that's a lot of
Guys,
questions in one.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe it's a bunch, but yeah, Spaydh, you can take them however you want.
So I think for the history with regards to Proposal 69, Alex and Vasiliy are probably better placed to explain like everything that went down at this time, and like the what was at stake, and how 72 is probably like another way to give the functionality, utility, and value accrual that that Proposal 69 kind of sought to bring to the hub. Now, for Proposals 72, I can probably go into more detail about the funding and like how Neutron itself, like what part of 72 Neutron constitutes and stuff. But I think perhaps like starting with the history is more relevant. Vasiliy or Alex, do you want to take this?
Yeah, okay. So the gist of it, Proposal 62 was, 69 was to deploy Cosmos right on Cosmos Hub. Proposal 72 is to make a Cosmos sidecar for Cosmos Hub, basically. I personally think that like both would have been good proposals. They're like permissioned Cosmos on Hub is, I think, would be and still is good thing for Cosmos Hub. It a lot of people disagree with me here. Like you can see by votes and by extensive discussion on Twitter, people perceive Cosmos as too risky, which I don't agree with. It's not more risky than Cosmos SDK. Basically, it's about as complex, and the engineering practice is very good in Cosmos. So it increases the danger of of halting or some mistake on Cosmos Hub, but like very slightly, basically, in my opinion. It would give the Cosmos Hub some capabilities of its own besides interchain security, but like that was a change from the narrative of Cosmos Hub that was there from the beginning, basically. A lot of people didn't expect this to happen and were against this, like as not as planned, because we had good reasons to plan it this way. Fair enough. And so like 69 was rejected. There was like a very unfortunate think that Jack One also offered airdrops basically for every people who voted no on this. So that's also a part of history here. But I think that's not that relevant. Like, not a lot of people voting no were doing this for money. Basically, I think most of them were just like really against it, didn't like it. Like, Cosmos Hub needs to have utility, otherwise, like, what's the value of it? It's not a hub right now. It's like Osmosis is like the hub number one in Cosmos. So it needs utility, and if the utility on the base layer of Cosmos Hub is out of the question, then interchain security is the answer.
Yeah, and that kind of like that's kind of what brought Proposal 72 into existence, at least according to the description of the prop. Proposal 72 was published as a draft on the forum quite a few weeks ago by Yelena from Informal Link. At this point in time, we were not really aware of this proposal being like worked on, but once we saw it, we had a look, and basically the goal of the proposal is to to help interchain security go to market by bringing protocols or zones to interchain security at launch. The initial proposal was to have 150K from the community pool split into funding for 3 projects that were unspecified at the time of the draft, because it was kind of a call for projects, basically. And the idea was, 1, to make sure that interchain security would be used as soon as it would launch, and 2, potentially to facilitate the launch of multiple liquid staking products around the Cosmos Hub to ensure that there's a healthy diversity of solutions. And so we were working on Neutron like very intensively in terms of research already. And so when we saw this proposal and the fact that it was like very aligned with interchain security, and that had been a key part of our design, like of the design we were like working on, we thought that this was actually like a great opportunity to kind of like be one of those 3 projects. So we got into contact with the proposers, and we basically ended up being one of those 3 projects. And so if the proposal passes, which is looking fairly likely, Neutron, so like P2P, which is building Neutron, would receive 50K atom. Those atoms would be paid in 2 installments. The first one, I think, after the proposal passes, and the second one once the chain launches, after interchain security is released. In the meantime, the funds will be kept in a multisig, which is operated by Yelena, David Fayok, Zaki Manian, and Jack Zampolin, if my memory is correct. And they would also be in charge of like shepherding the rest of the funds, so like the remaining 100K atoms, to fund the development of either different zones that would use interchain security, or smart contracts teams that want to build on Neutron, basically. So it's either or. So we think this is like a fairly interesting proposal for Neutron in 2 ways. Like, the first one is obviously building a zone, especially one with like such costly and extensive like IBC tech support, basically, especially like ICQs, is costly. It takes a lot of development. It takes a lot of like time. It also usually takes a lot of money to get the integrations and stuff that are required to get a zone off the ground. So obviously the funding is an important aspect, but it's really it's relatively small to the cost of such a project. So that's like one part of the proposal. But what we're really what we really wanted from this proposal is mostly the signal that actually, yes, the community sees the value that Neutron can bring to the ecosystem, to the Cosmos Hub, and it's kind of a vote of confidence, a confirmation that what we're building has interest, and that we're not doing this for nothing, basically. And I think despite the earliest conversations, which were a bit more polarized, I think the debates in the community have been very, very interesting, and it's looking like everyone is now coming around to seeing the benefits, the value that Neutron is going to bring, and that has been very exciting for us to witness, basically.
Yeah, thanks for expanding there. I think, also worth to mention, we also voted in favor of Chorus 1 of Proposal 72. And I think, a lot of things that you mentioned previously where, the hub does need to have some utility. I think I very much subscribe to that. And maybe this seems to be I guess the path that now a lot of people agree with, luckily. And I hope a lot of cool things will come out of that, right? Now, I guess one thing about this is it's, of course, there is some funding. There's 50,000 atoms, which right now I guess is almost 500K. But of course, this is as we already mentioned, right? Interchain query is quite complex. This is a whole kind of its own blockchain. Of course, there is actually much more cost associated with building this and maintaining it, especially in the long run. So I'm wondering, how would this be funded in the future? Do you already have some ideas there? Or I guess, how have you been thinking about this? Is this something that the community pool of Atom will continuously pay for in some kind of grant fashion? Or what could be some options maybe? Or what are your thoughts on this regard?
I think it's too important to say a huge thank you to Cosmos community to support, and especially Lena, a huge merit in this proposal website. And if we will speak about money, I think such project cannot build on a 50K atom. Projects such as Neutron have a price tag in the millions of dollars. And this grant is meaningful nonetheless. It will help us secure a few months of runway. And I think it is signal the community is interested in Neutron. In my opinion, it's not enough to launch Neutron. It's necessary to make it popular. For example, we talked to these companies with about integration, and their requests for grants in the total are much higher, but even without counting in burn rate, in my opinion.
Yeah, and in forms of funding, in its full form, if it's a success, Neutron is of course is capable to fund itself. With fees. That's how it works. You can. There is not a lot of blockchains right now that can fund its fees, but that's the end game. For example, Ethereum is almost there right now, and that's what should happen eventually. In the meantime, we don't have an exact answer, but continuous support from Cosmos Hub community pool is not it. It's not going to happen. I think there is. We don't want it, and it's unrealistic to expect it. So
yeah, it's kind of the counter, the exact opposite of what we're aiming for. The goal is while initial support is great, and as we said, it will help us with runway and everything. We don't intend on depending on the hub for funding. On the contrary, we want to install a kind of self-reinforcing relationship with the hub, where the hub provides security to Neutron, and then that Neutron provides the hub with revenue. Those this revenue, this new stream of revenue, and that of other interchain zone increases the value of Atom. But because Atom is securing Neutron, the increase of value of Atom increases the security of Neutron, and then the cycle can repeat again and again. So the goal is not to depend on the hub for continuous funding or anything. On the contrary, we kind of want to take this funding to build something that will bring value into the ecosystem, that will not be kind of a zero-sum game, but kind of bring new users, new devs, new capital into the ecosystem, make a bigger pie for the whole interchain, basically.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super cool. I guess maybe just structurally how it would work. I guess also because right now we don't really have any interchain security zones. How exactly do these economics work? So basically, you can someone like explain this a little bit for our listeners, how exactly the fees from Neutron would kind of pay for the security?
Sure. I think I can take this at a basic level, and then Vasiliy, if you want to expand with vision, and I think that's welcome as well. So interchain security at a very basic level is telling via governance, telling your validator set, oh, there's this other blockchain, please start producing blocks for it as well. And to do so, the validators just basically set up a new node on the new blockchain. So they basically run two different nodes at the same time. That's what allows interchain security not to compromise the original zone as well. So for example, if something critically bad happened on Neutron and Neutron was halted or destroyed or whatever, the Cosmos hub itself would continue running without a hitch because it's not the same node that got affected. So those validators start producing blocks on both networks at the same time using their two separate nodes. And IBC is used to communicate between the zones to make sure that they're producing blocks on both zones. If they don't, they can be slashed on the zone that is providing interchain security. So, for example, if part of the Atom validator set doesn't feel like producing blocks for Neutron, but it is in this kind of like relationship of interchain security, then those validators can be slashed. So that's kind of like the penalty if you don't do your work. But because it is extra work, it also had to have a reward. Like, why do those validators undertake this extra work? Well, it's because they get extra rewards in exchange. So the mechanism that's outlined in the proposal, which is pretty reasonable, I think, is that 25% of the transaction fees on Neutron would go directly to the Cosmos hub. So it would be basically extra staking rewards that would accrue to the validator set and obviously to the delegators as well. There are other mechanisms that are possible. And so I think like as interchain security kind of like expands as a technology and more zones start having these relationship between with each other, we might see different mechanisms. We could see zones that just like use a share of their token unrelated to their fees as kind of like a rent paying mechanism. We could also have chains where it's a fee on different types of activities of different protocols on the zone or related to like the app chains like main function that is used to pay for interchain security. The mechanism itself and how it's implemented can be pretty versatile. But in the case of Neutron and Proposal 72, that's the one that has been proposed. So 25% of the fees on Neutron go to Atom, and the 75 remaining percents can be used to kind of like fund Neutron and its development going forward, basically.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for expanding. I think that's a super interesting model. I think, maybe it would be interesting. Is it also possible? I guess we're pretty early on this, but if like a zone if this payment is not enough at some point anymore, basically the governance of the Cosmos Hub would decide maybe to like cut off interchain security. Is also a possibility that is there, or how do you see that? I guess we're quite early.
Yeah, I think that we'll see. We were pioneers here. Like we don't want how it will work going forward yet. Like we think that the deal that is proposed in the Prop 72 is good for everyone, but it might turn out not good. Like for example, the price of validating the Neutron chain can be like more than what Neutron is giving back, or vice versa. We'll see how it's going to be solved. By design, Neutron is not very interested in having its own validator set. It's kind of wants to be the part of something bigger. So I guess we'll.
No, yeah, that's totally fine. I think it makes sense, right? Because I guess you also on top of that you have this implicit effect of the kind of value accrual for Atom or like more utility, where that increased Atom price, if you would cut it off just because the transaction fees are not enough, you also lose all that utility, which probably is not a smart move. Let's say there is some traction and something happening. So I think that makes sense.
And reputation as well, because like in this new kind of like narrative for the Cosmos Hub as a interchain service provider, and especially with interchain security, the hub is not the only zone that can provide interchain security. So like there will be a way, like the sort of reputation as well in between providers. And so the hub dropping consumers like this is probably not a good look as well, like either.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Totally agree. I think, I wanted to like ask one last question before we wrap up, which is basically, currently what's the stage of, development of Neutron? Where are you guys at? How will this go? And like, what do you want the community to know? Where can they find more about Neutron? How can people participate? How can they prepare for interchain security and things like that?
Of course. So there's a lot happening at this time. Like it's the best way to think about Neutron for now is it's kind of a seed stage project. So we're still putting in place like a lot of the architecture that will help people like actually interact with Neutron. So we're working on the website, we're setting up the communications. We got our like the actual Neutron Twitter account started yesterday. So a lot of this is like still happening, and so it's not that easy for now for people to like find information. We're actively working on that. And we're also obviously actively working on the tech. So Alex can probably tell you more about this, but as far as I know, we have like for interchain accounts, interchain queries, we have basically the basic implementations. So we have something that already works, but that needs a bit more, that needs being refined a bit more. So like, for example, for interchain queries, that means adding new queries types that are useful to a wide majority of protocols. That means making sure that like the error message for every edge case has been pre-planned as well, so we can deal with situations that are like maybe edge cases like as well as possible, so that in production we don't run into like big problems with the zone. So all of this takes a lot of work. And we have like the main infrastructure, like we know how we're going to build it. We've started building it, and we have the basic like kind of like MVP versions of things. Now we need to integrate them, make sure everything works together, and then keep refining them so that when we launch, like it's actually something that people can start using from the get-go, basically. Alex, if you have more information on this, I think that's something that's very important.
I think it's really a lot of work because it's amazing, unique product. It is first product which included these benefits. We don't have another product with these benefits. It's absolutely new way for Cosmos ecosystem. We have already started development, but Neutron, it is complex product. We prioritize safety and security because it is money, and which will require audits and tests. With that in mind, we intend to ship it soon after the release of Interchain security. I think it is our plan.
Awesome. Yeah, like really looking forward to this, and I really hope the proposal will pass. It looks like it, right? Like we also vote for it. I guess we can congratulate you guys hopefully soon. And thanks so much for coming on. This was super informative, and I hope like some people will learn a bit more, and then hopefully also soon there will be more information available from you guys. And thanks so much for coming on, and see you soon.
Thank you for your support, for invitation, and especially thank you to the community, Cosmos community, to support this proposal. It's very important. I think it's a very big step for Cosmos ecosystem.
I agree. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.